Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 289 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we have a fun show today. We brought our interview back. We got another interview. As we said, we were going to have a lot lined up this year, and this was one of them. And this with we're talking about Frogman tonight, by the way, the great new found footage. I wanted to give it like its own classification, like it's like a cryptid found footage, you know, because I think the cryptid found footages kind of give like it an extra like twist to just a regular found footage. And we have writer director of it, Anthony Cousins, with a great interview with him. That was fun because I really wanted to always talk about like what a true like found footage like that. I mean, I know we talked to Jed Shepard about Host. I mean that was a different type of found footage. This is like a good old traditional found footage, like mixed with a cryptid, which you know is right up Tim and I's alley. So I was really excited, and I think you'll enjoy this interview coming up.
Yeah, this was a great interview, and it's fun because I get to listen to the interviews back when I edit them, and so sometimes when I'm doing the interview, I don't know how well it turned out, like because I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, but it's only until I go back and edit it that I hear how it all flows and everything. And I just thought this was a fantastic interview. I really, really enjoyed going back and listening to it again. I think you guys are going to really like this one because Anthony's a really cool guy. He's very laid back, very knowledgeable about the whole filmmaking process and how this film was made and everything. I thought it was just so cool to talk to somebody who had done a found footage film and could speak to the differences between found footage and narrative film and that kind of thing. I thought that piece of it was really fascinating. And you'll hear all that in the interview. Yeah,
especially, and plus you're throwing the cryptid thing, and that's it. That's all we need.
Yeah. So let's get right into some of the movies we watched for our Horror 365 challenge. This is our first chop. All right, Brian. So, of course, we're both continuing on. I've been a little slack the last couple of days in keeping up my end of the bargain on the Horror 365 challenge, but I tend to go in bursts. Like sometimes I'll knock out 3 a day or something.
Yeah, Tim likes to binge.
Yeah, I had to binge them. So the first one up here was The House of Long Shadows from 1983. This is really a cool one because it was a sort of a Hammer horror type revival where they brought back Christopher Lee, Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, John Carradine. They brought these guys back. Of course, 1983, they were kind of a little bit, not too far past their quote-unquote prime, but they were a little bit removed from that.
Christopher Lee has no prime. His whole life is prime.
Well, that's true.
I don't think he ever had a non-prime period,
But it was early 80s, so everything had moved on from this 70s style horror into like the full-blown slasher. So this is kind of a throwback in a way, even though it was kind of an early throwback. And it was basically a big haunted house type mystery, very gothic. This writer, he rents this house he wants to write this great, horror novel. And he decides the perfect atmosphere will be this big mansion. And so he rents this place, and then these visitors keep showing up. Like Christopher Lee shows up, and Vincent Price shows up, and Peter Cushing shows up, and all these people show up as part of this family that used to live in this house. And a mystery unfolds, and I won't give away the mystery because it's a really, really good mystery, and it's very clever. And I thought it was really fun. This is a fun one. Obviously the stars of this one are having a great time. You kind of hamming it up from what their traditional roles typically were in these type of movies. You could tell they were having a great time doing this and getting back together with each other. So I would highly recommend that one, especially if you're a fan of all these guys like we are. It was a neat little kind of a throwback to 70s Hammer horror. I wouldn't say scary per se, but I think it was a nice homage to that style.
Yeah. I mean, plus you're going to get bothered trying to be like by people coming over to your house unexpected. I mean, Christopher Lee and Vincent Price, Peter Cushing. I mean, talk about like people that like I wouldn't mind coming over at
anytime.
Obviously in the past, but
yes.
That'd be fun. First one I watched is Tim's going to probably make a face on this one, but this was the documentary that came with my new Paranormal Activity set I bought right before I moved, which is that nice like complete series of until they make the new one coming out. But then did we see like the new one is like going to be like almost like a game or a show or something?
Yeah, I think I think there is a new film coming out, but the first thing that's coming out that's related to Paranormal Activity is going to be a game.
Right? Yeah,
they're going to do a video game, and I think the movie's coming out in like 2026 or something.
Oh, okay, so we got a while. Yeah, so I'll probably have to buy a new set back then. But anyway, this one came out, and this was the only way you could actually get, at least at the point of when I ordered this, was the way to get the final film, Next of Kin, which of course that like I think it was Paramount Plus exclusive. Which
was actually,
that one. Yeah, which was actually surprisingly really totally different from the other format, but it ended up being one of the really really good ones. And this one, so this is a documentary that came with it called Unknown Dimension: The Story of Paranormal Activity. And the big chunks of it are of course the first few. They do go into pretty much everything, and even at the end they kind of have like an on-set bonus little segment of, because I guess when this came out they were still filming the last one, so it was kind of nice that they found a way to even include it. But it's just really good because it shows like the way like the how they really developed this franchise, and they even talk about like it's not. They're very honest in it. Like they flat out tell you where they think it went wrong and what mistakes they think they made, and some of the cool little behind the scenes stuff. One of my favorite stories in it was Katie Featherston when she said that I guess when it first hit the theaters out for regular people to see it, not the full premiere, but when it premiered for general audiences, it was playing at Universal City Walk in Hollywood, and she was, I guess because she was just either her first role or she was just starting out or whatever, she was actually working at the Buco de Beppo restaurant at City Walk at the time, and people were literally coming up to her and saying, "Wait, were you just in that movie?" And she was laughing. She says, "Yep, that's me." And I guess she was like, it was her last couple of days at the restaurant, but I guess it seems like she's pretty loyal to her job. So, because she's stuck in there. I mean, meanwhile, she's got like at one of the most like legendary breakthrough horror performances at some levels, because like that movie was so iconic. When it came out, and then here she is like hostessing it at the restaurant across the street from where the movie's playing. It's kind of funny those stories like that, yeah. But but really cool stuff. They go through like all the franchises, all the different things. It's interesting. They basically go to where they how they like handpicked lore out of the first one to create the other lore, because it was never meant to be a series. It was meant to be a one-off. So it's really interesting. I think you'd like the documentary, Tim, a lot. Even though I know you're like mixed on the series as a whole.
Yeah. I wanted to watch this one.
Yeah, you would find this fascinating. So you'll have to check this one out.
Nice. The next one up I had was The New Kids from 1985. As you can tell, I'm watching a lot of 80s movies because I'm still going through that In Search of Darkness list. But The New Kids from 1985. This one was great. I don't know if you've seen this one before, Brian.
I want to say, this is one of those ones like I feel like when I saw you post it and I was looking at it, I'm like, I think I might have seen this on cable at one point. I think this looked like it was like an HBO one that was always on. But
yeah, it looks like one of those movies that would have had heavy syndication on HBO. But this one is directed by Sean S. Cunningham of course, of Friday the 13th fame. Stars a really young James Spader, sporting a blonde hairdo, which is, I bet you can't imagine unless you go back and look at this thing. A very young Eric Stoltz, which I was surprised to see, and then a very young Lori Loughlin. And the story here is a brother and sister. Their parents are killed, so they have to go live with their uncle. What's cool about this is their uncle runs like this old Santa Land amusement park that he's fixing back up. So they go to live with him, and they're going to help him fix this amusement park back up. So immediately I was like, oh, yeah, this is
I think I have seen this. I just don't remember much of it, but that kind of triggered my memory a little more. I'm pretty sure I saw this on cable.
But James Spader is part of this gang of, I guess, kind of redneck hillbilly types a little bit that kind of get
that
mixed
seems
up.
So not James Spader in every other role.
Well, he wasn't really even known for being a villain, and this is like his first real villainous role, which is funny because he's played so many villains over the years. But so they get mixed up and kind of get on the wrong side of this gang, and it kind of gets increasingly. It starts out like very, I wouldn't say family friendly, but it starts out like very like PG. And then it gets into some really dark places as it goes on. And the more it goes on, like the worse it gets. But I thought it was super entertaining. I was really glad I watched this one. If you haven't checked this one out, check it out. it's not, I wouldn't say it's pure horror per se. I would say it's more of a thriller, but I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was very, very entertaining throughout.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to, and we've discussed this, I think we need to kind of broaden what we count as horror, because I think thrillers can be considered horror at a lot more times than they are, just because of the fact that, like, it may be horrific for for certain people. It could be triggering. It could be, like the situation could be horror based, even though they don't count it as a horror film. So I think, like, especially with this year, I think for the learn more through this horror challenge. Like when we do our Halloween one, I think we're gonna like open it up a little more. Like I know our criteria was, well, if it says horror in IMDb, that's the way we tell. I think we need to be a little more open. If it says thriller in IMDb and it's horror enough, and it's on Shudder or Screambox or something like that, I think we have to count it as horror.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, this one was actually, I was surprised. I fully expected it to only be classified as thriller. It was actually classified as horror on IMDb, but I don't really get where that comes from. This one to me is definitely pure thriller, but I agree. I think we need to expand that out a little bit, especially because I'm running out of horror movies to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's and it's like, why are we like trusting IMDb is a great source, but they're not the end all either.
No. And there's so many gray areas. Like, who are they to say? I mean, so yeah.
So, they don't even know. How do they know where we're going? No, okay. To throw it. You had to throw in a plane, train, and automobiles. It's the rule. This one I'll talk about quick because this is one of those movies that really, there's a lot of twists to it, so you don't want to give much away. But it was The Forest. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I've seen this one, and I know exactly which jump scares you're talking about.
Yeah, there were some good ones in here.
Yeah,
and I like actually put a warning to Tim on there, but since he's seen it already, so I guess he can heed his own warning if he watches it again. But real quick, it's about a Natalie Dormer plays a girl. She's looking for her twin sister that went lost in Japan's legendary suicide forest, which is really a fascinating thing. And I know a lot of movies have that element that I think, what is it, that movie The Wailing, I think, which I still need to watch. I think it's about that. And I think there's another one, but the whole thing fascinates me. And so she's off going into the forest, with the warning, like, look, if, you have any issues, it could play on them. It'll, the whole shtick. Really, really well done, though, I thought. A lot of good jump scares, a lot of good, Natalie Dormer's great in it. And I'm really not going to say much more because I think because of the twist, it's hard to keep talking about it without kind of tipping some things off. So I'll just leave it at that. But really good. It was actually really good.
I will say, if you like the whole Suicide Forest thing, there's a book called Suicide Forest by Jeremy Bates. He writes horror novels, and he's one of my favorite horror novel writers because he writes very easy to read, very quick to read books based on like haunted places. They're fictional. I mean, it's a fictional story with characters and everything, but they play out very much like this movie. They play out like a mainstream horror movie, and he's got a whole series. One series is like all different kinds of haunted places. So he does like the Suicide Forest. There's a couple other places he does, and then he started another series that was all like weird events. Like one was like some cryptid called the Mosquito Man. There was another one that was something about the Dancing Plague. Like, it's really cool how he ties these in. One that was about sleep deprivation. But
you gotta send me the link to this book.
I'll definitely send you. Jeremy Bates is his name. He writes some really great horror books. The next one I had, my God, this movie, trauma film. So be prepared. It's Beware Children at Play, 1989. And it's unlike a lot of trauma films you see because there's no real humor in this one. It's not played for laughs. It's just played for shock value. And this is basically their take on Children of the Corn. So it starts out kind of strangely where a girl goes missing in the woods, and they're talking about like brownies captured her. And I was like, is this like a fairy movie? Like brownies and fairies or something?
Like the girl?
Yeah, but it turned out that it's really like this group of kids that live in the woods that are basically have turned evil, and they're like a whole gang, and they're murderous. And that's like their take on Children of the Corn a little bit. But this movie, like all the way up until probably the third, late into the third act, seems pretty, by the numbers. But then it goes complete wacko nuts that I can't even talk about on here because I don't want to give anything away. But suffice it to say, you will see things you've never seen in most horror movies.
Interesting. Now you've intrigued me.
It's completely. I can't believe they got away with it. Put it that way. I can't believe they got away with it.
Is this on Shudder or Tubi or something?
I believe it's on Tubi. Almost everything I've been watching lately.
I might have to. Yeah, I might have to make this my next watch then.
I need to know what you think about the ending, Brian, because it is completely batshit insane.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I think I may put this out because I have to pick something to watch tonight to keep on track. So maybe I'll do this one. Yeah. Real quick though, question. So you have a daughter. What is the difference, or if there is one, of the brownies and the Girl Scouts? Are they the same thing? Because I know Girl Scouts sell cookies, so do the brownies sell brownies?
I wonder if brownies
I thought they should.
You don't hear about brownies much anymore. Do you think, was that like the version of the Cub Scouts was to the Boy Scouts? Was brownies to the Girl Scouts?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I wonder.
Is it like the younger version?
Is that what it may be? I don't know. I gotta. You know what? We'll ask. I'm gonna ask off after we're done.
Yeah, it is.
He'll know because oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's the younger version of the Girl Scouts.
Oh, okay.
Girl Scout brownies. Yeah, so it's a second or third grade elementary school. Yeah,
okay. So they're not in competition.
No, it's just like the Cub Scouts were. I was in Cub Scouts. I never made it to Boy Scouts. But,
I was in any kind of scout thing. Although, actually, no, I take that back. I think I was like my one year my day camp. I think I was in the Oneida Scouts was my group name. That's the closest I ever became. I have two more that I watched. I was gonna only do a third one, but I figured since the first one I said so quick. This is this. Oh my God, Tim, you got to watch this movie. This one is bizarro, especially because it's like in '68, and I was surprised at the amount of boobs in it. And it was The Strange World of Coffin Joe. It's a so I thought it was actually it's a Brazil. It was from Brazil, and it's actually. They speak the Portuguese in it. It's a Portuguese language horror film. It's like a 3-segment anthology. Very very bizarro the way that the take on this because it's like it's in all black and white. And it seems much older than '68 even, and so that's why I think I was a little surprised at the whole like the element of the boob put in because you don't see that back then. But really quickly, so the first movie was the first segment was about a doll maker who look eerily human. The next one is I'm going by their description, the way they say it, is a tale of necrophilia, and the third one is a doctor that proves love is dead, and third one is where the gore really, really kicks in. But it's really well done because it's obviously all practical effects back then. So it's like really like gritty and interesting. And I've always heard of it. And I want to say we did a dismemberment where it was like a Coffin Joe collection or something.
It was. That's where I remembered it from.
Yeah. So now I'm like regretting I didn't like buy. I should look in to see if I can still get that because if their movies are like this one, it's like there's a whole like weird song in the beginning and like I feel like the first like 10 minutes is credits. It's very weird, but it might have just been because I was like anxious to get the movie in because the whole movie is short. I think it's like 89 minutes, but definitely one to watch. Shudder just added it, so it's good for Shudder when they get these like obscure ones, that you may have like heard of in passing or something, or maybe just you and I just never heard of it. I don't know until the dismemberment.
Yeah, I want to see that one.
Yeah, and next one is, and this is funny because we talk about this on the episode reveal tomorrow in our dismemberment because it happens to be on there, and we had seen, so we watched the trailer of it, and then Shudder just had it on there the same like week, and that's Moon Garden, which I kind of describe, and now that I've watched the whole thing, is definitely similar to Where Dreams May Come, a little bit mixed in of. Definitely Mirror Mask, which I had heard described, a little bit of Labyrinth in there, just really good. And I found that the actress, the young girl that's like the star of this thing, is like the director's daughter, and she is so good in it. And like as a parent, Tim, it may even like be a little bit more like disturbing for you, having a daughter and seeing the daughter struggling. But it's amazing. The visuals are incredible. There is one weird thing that I noticed. I don't know if this was intentional for the movie or the version Shudder got was cut for television, and the fact of they brought commercial breaks in because every so often it like fades out quickly and then fades back in, but like it felt like you were going to commercial. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would love for no one else commented. I looked up a million different things. Nobody said anything about it. So I don't know if Shudder just got a version and it played theatrically. So it wasn't like made for TV, or like I'm wondering if it was just some kind of weird like gimmick that the director wanted to use. I don't know. It's very. I know you're gonna watch it, so tell me what you think of it. But very like there's some really creepy and amazing visuals in this. So it was really good. Next couple of things I wanted to talk about real quick is I was able to finally get my Julie and I were able to get our white whale of beer, and that was Pliny the Younger. I'm sure you've heard of it, Tim.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think? Yeah, Pliny the Elder is the one that goes year round. You can get this, but Pliny the Younger, as far as I know, I think it's only released technically February to like bars and restaurants, and then in April you can actually go get it at the tap rooms where you can get home. I think each person is limited to 2 bottles. One of those things where you get online, you get a ticket and the whole thing. And I think they make it so you can, for a 2-week span, you can go each day, and they have enough for everyone to get for the day. And it's like, it's extremely rare beer to get, and it's a triple IPA. So it's strong, but the thing is, it drinks so smooth. Like I took a sip, like I remember when Julie and I finally got this thing, we had it sitting in front of us. I'm like, oh my God. After all these years of wanting this, is this going to be the biggest thing of disappointment ever? And I took a sip. I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is really good. And I'm like, I don't know where it's definitely not a bad beer. It's good. Don't know where it goes. But as I start drinking more and more and realize how drinkable it was and how flavorful it was and how the aftertastes were hitting, I'm like, okay, now I get it. I totally get why this beer has the legend it does. Because it really is one of the best. I mean, it's up there, right up there with Clapback and the Fiden's beers that we've had, and so it's
nice.
If I gotta try and get if you ever see it, and it's funny because I have this Twitter site, it's called Pliny Finder. That's how I knew that local bar near us with the arcade was gonna have it. But it's weird. It's it seems like around now in February and March it distributes in California, of course. Because from Russian River, and they were in California. It also hits Philadelphia and Pennsylvania a lot, which is very odd that it gets all the way to the East Coast, but just in just the state of Pennsylvania, I see it. It's also in Colorado a lot and in Oregon. Those, it seems like I don't know what the rhyme or reason is why those hit there. And at some places will get it, and it's it sells out fast because they usually can only give you a 6-ounce pour of it. We paid $11 for a 6-ounce pour of the beer, but it was worth every penny and every sip. So we did it right, and it basically kind of Julie's well, so here's the question: do you still want to wait? And because we had planned to go wait, online one of the days when they get the brewery gets it, and I'm like, yeah, I think we should. It would be nice to kind of have a couple of bottles of this.
Yeah,
so I
awesome.
highly, if you can obtain it. What's the Ferris Bueller line? If you have the means, I highly suggest it. Yeah.
No, if you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up. It is choice.
Yeah, it's so true. So that is the perfect way. The Pliny the Elder, Younger should make shirts that say that. Next thing, quick, I want to get into because we're gonna actually have RG Henning on to discuss it. And that's his new book, which is it's called Jason 3D, a comprehensive expose of Friday the 13th Part 3, which of course is he wrote the one that I wrote, the Sackhead one all about Part 2. I have not started to read this yet, as it just arrived. It just released last week, so I just got my copy. Super excited though, because we're gonna have him on to talk about it. And if it's anything like his original book, where they basically go through every character and every little it has its own chapter about the film. It's just, I love the format he does, and he gets you really excited and brings back why you have the love for that franchise. So I think it's definitely a great book to pick up, and they're not very long. They're a nice little paperback size, so they could fit in your work bag easily if you want to bring it to work and read on your breaks and stuff. So nice. Yeah, so we're gonna I think we're having him on the week of the 20th, so it'll probably be the last week of March. You'll hear that interview.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that interview for sure. All right, so our main feature is Frogman from Anthony Cousins, and I've been dying to talk about this one. I couldn't because of the embargo, so all we could do is mention that we'd seen it.
Officially released. As the day we're recording, it's actually released.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I hate to screw these names up, but I've never heard them pronounced, so hopefully I'm not screwing them too bad. We got Nathan Timashuk as Dallas, Benny Barrett as Scotty, Ali Dennis as Frogman / Egg Girl, and Shari Ekman as Gretel, Chelsea Grant as Amy. Yeah, and if I screwed up any of these names, I apologize. If your name was mispronounced on Civil War, you're in an elite club of everybody who's screwed up names.
You're kind of there.
It's not even an elite club. It's actually the most common club on the planet where we've screwed up everybody's name. But
yeah, it's
apologies
elite
there.
because it's from us, but
Yes.
and we're not that known. But yeah, that's
The synopsis here is three friends in search of the Loveland Frogman find out that he is more than just a local legend. And of course, I didn't even know anything about this movie. I saw Frogman and I was instantly in. And then when I found out it was found footage and it was a cryptid, I was even more in. Like, I was like, this is totally right up my alley. And it did not disappoint. It's got what I really liked about it, that struck me about it, is it has a nice, very subtle sense of humor to it.
It does.
And if when we talked to Anthony, I could see where that humor came from, because he's got this like really dry sense of humor, and I thought it was and very, like I said, very laid back sense of humor, which I totally appreciate. And I loved how subtly it was weaved into the movie, and that struck me immediately how funny, but it's not played for like comedy. Like it's not overtly like horror comedy at all. It's just that humor is underlies there because and you need that because the premise is so ridiculous. The Loveland Frog is one of the most ridiculous cryptids that's ever come out of the whole cryptid universe, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's not particularly like creepy. I mean, it's just like a tall frog that walks. I mean, it's almost like you almost think like the News Review, with Freddy the Frog, like that kind of thing. And it's it's inappropriate. But that's what was impressive about it, is like he managed to give it the creep, more of a creep factor than it needed, that should have had, because it is kind of a silly premise. I mean, some cryptids, there are cryptids out there that are like downright frightening. There are some that are just goofy. And he kind of took Frogman from the goofy aspect and kind of gave it like you said, though, he still managed to have the humor in there of it, but still managed to add some really creepy factors to it, which I thought was really impressive.
I had this idea back in, years and years ago. I had this idea of like, wouldn't it be cool to do like a cryptid hunt thing, like in town? Like if I was a filmmaker, which I'm not, and that's why this has never happened. But I was like, it'd be cool to do like a web series or a movie or something where I'm investigating like local legends, like in Wilmington, like different hauntings or different things. And it would be completely fictional. Like the legends would be real, but the whole thing would be completely fictional, like a webisode, and like scary things would happen and stuff. But of course it would be all made up. And I had this this whole thought out idea of doing this. And this, like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, man, this is like exactly what I would have wanted to do if the Frogman was in Wilmington. It's like create this entire thing where some guy just goes on a quest to go find this thing, and the movie is the end result of everything that happened. But I thought it was a great kind of clever setup, and then a great arc to the story.
Yeah, and it's fun too. And Tim and I, we mentioned this in the interview too. Is we tell us like Tim and I also love like quest movies like that. Like I brought up the Nintendo Quest, and the fact that they add this in there, it's like I love like those like. That's the found footage ones to me that are my favorite, where it's like, I know it's like the most standard found footage formula, like, out there. Like this is, if you look at it, it's very Blair Witch. Two guys, a girl go out to like hunting for a legend and stuff, and the town folk are involved and this and all that stuff. But the thing is you could I don't mind when a story like that is done in a way, because as long as the director adds their personal touch to it, which Anthony totally did, it doesn't make, you don't really like feel like that while you're watching it. Like you don't feel like, oh, okay, this is Blair Witch again. It doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like its own thing, even though if you look at it, the basic plot is similar to a lot of found footage film, where it's just you go ahead and you got people looking for some kind of local legend. I mean, maybe it's because I absolutely love those type, and so I can't get enough of them. But but still, like I've seen some ones that just don't pull it off. This one pulls it off like in every way possible, and you'll hear in the interview like why they think that's good. I mean, the acting was brilliant. He seemed to know how to who to cast for the roles that he wanted and what he wanted to go. And, and it's like, I think that's why this one works so well. And it like instantly just went to the top of my favorite found footage movies. I mean, it's like for the second I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, okay, Tim is going to love this. Cause I think I watched it right when we got it. And I'm like, okay, Tim is going to absolutely flip at this one. He's got to see this. Yeah.
I think you guys are going to like this one. We won't talk much more about it since we want you guys to see it. It's coming out, and this interview is just so fantastic. So here it is, our interview with Anthony Cousins. We'll be right back after this interview to wrap up with our beer pairing and fan topic food question. All right, everybody. So, as you know, we are a huge fan of cryptids on this show. So, we were excited to check out the new film Frogman. With us tonight to chat all about it is writer director Anthony Cousins. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thank you for coming.
We love found footage. We love cryptids. So, this was like a match made in heaven here.
Yeah.
But before we start talking about Frogman, can you tell us just a little bit about how you got started in filmmaking and maybe some of your past projects?
Sure. Well, I went to school for it. I looked at a trade school. I was going to be an electrician or a plumber or something, and I thought, oh my God, there's no way. I was like, I'll take the way more difficult route of making movies and not making any money. I wish I could be satisfied with doing one of those things. But film school led me to cinematography, which led me to gripping, which I still do to this day. That's kind of my bread and butter at the moment is I just grip on features and commercials and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, about 10 years ago, I tried directing my hand at directing something really because I just wanted to shoot it. I just like visually thought it was an awesome story. It was called When Susurrus Stirs by Jeremy Robert Johnson. So I made that as a short, really just to have some cool imagery for my cinematography reel. And then it was, to my surprise, like well received. So I've been trying my hand at directing ever since. I did a slasher thing. I did a cute little thing recently called Every Time We Meet for Ice Cream, Your Whole Fucking Face Explodes, which is kind of an adolescent love story. And now I've tried found footage. What's next? I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that on your IMDb, that one about the ice cream. I'm like, I gotta
Yeah, I was
check that one
immediately
out.
intrigued by that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one sounds great.
I just threw it on YouTube on Valentine's Day, so you'll find it there.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome.
cool. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know
Check it
we
out.
could see it like that. Okay, that's awesome. So one actually we've kind of familiar with your work before that because actually you did two of our favorite segments in the two scare package films.
Oh yeah,
Which was the with The Night He Came Back Again. I mean, I know they're long titles, but I'm going to read them because they do the justice of the parody there. The Night He Came Back Again, Part 4, The Final Kill, and The Night He Came Back Again, Part 6, The Night She Came Back. And I thought those were both brilliant nods to the slasher genre. I mean, it fits so perfectly in the scare package film. So, but were you a big fan of slashers? Is that what you and like how'd you come up with that idea?
I do. I really love slashers. After Susurrus, which was like a body horror thing, I wasn't sure what to do next. I was like, oh my God, like, should I do another body horror thing? Like, that's what people are gonna want. This did well. I don't have another body horror idea, but I did have this one idea for a kill that I've always wanted to see in a movie where a slasher pulls someone's voice box out and uses it like a duck call to like lure their friends to them. And
That's
so
awesome.
we built a whole short around that called The Bloody Ballad of Squirt Reynolds, which is funny that my first feature is just Frogman because like I kind of have a history of like overly long titles. So that one did pretty well on the festival circuit, and I met the Paper Street guys through that. They were at Texas Frightmare when I was screening Squirt Reynolds, and they were in the middle of making Scare Package. I think they had pretty much shot all of it except a little bit of the wraparound and then one more segment they needed. So they asked me if I'd do it. And that's where we came up with The Night He Came Back Again. It was my buddy Ryan Shadley that does all my effects. He did the Scare Package effects. He did Frogman. He was the one that had the great idea of like the killer that won't die. And like really playing with that trope specifically. He's really the idea guy. Because he also came up with the idea for Scare Package 2 of, well, what if she's also invincible? Like he just has these incredible nuggets that get us going. Yeah, so that's where those started.
Yeah, that's cool that you bumped into it because we've had Aaron on a couple of times, and he was always saying how he loved like, finding these great ideas to put in there with Paper Street. So that's pretty cool though that we got to talk to you so many years later after Scare Packet.
So, Anthony, obviously we already talked about we're huge fans of anything involving cryptids, and I listen to like all these cryptid podcasts like Monster Talk and Astonishing Legends and all. So I've heard all about the Loveland Frogman, and I think it's one of the most interesting choices for a cryptid to make a movie about because it's so ridiculous. Like this 4.5 foot frog that somebody saw. It's like it's so ridiculous, but to make a horror movie out of it, just like was I was so excited because it's not a cryptid you hear about a lot. There's
Right.
tons of Bigfoot movies. There's tons of all these Mothman and all that. You've heard all these, but the Loveland frog's kind of like this little niche cryptid. So I love the idea of that. So what inspired you to come up with this movie and to pick the Loveland frog in particular?
Yeah. Well, I hadn't heard of him actually until 2018, because we were on the short film set of a short film that my buddy John, who co-wrote Frogman with me, he was directing, and it took place in like a coast to coast style radio station. And he had a map, a U.S. map of cryptids, and in Ohio was the Loveland Frogman, and none of us had heard of that particular creature before, and we were just fascinated. Here's this frog holding a wand out. And so we just started researching him on set, and we were just like, this is amazing, you know? Like, there's no other cryptid that has a freaking accessory like a wand. And the other ones, like, I can understand how Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster might exist or how you might accidentally see them, but how have so many people accidentally saw a 4 foot frog with a fucking wand in his hand? So, like, I don't think with the stuff I've made so far, I don't think I have like a particular like voice or style, but the one thing that I do keep doing is like picking stories that everyone's like, why would you choose that? Like that's not something that anyone's mind would go to. Like when I chose to do When Susurrus Stirs, he was like, wow, that's the last story I ever thought anyone would try adapting. And same with Face Explodes. And I'm like, well, thank you. Maybe that's why I think it needs to be seen. And that's how I felt about the Loveland Frogman. I'm like, I want to see a movie starring a frog with a wand. Like, hell yeah, man. So I'm really just trying to make movies that I want to watch. And then ironically, I can barely enjoy them because I'm too deep. But I get
It's
to
fu-
enjoy them through you guys.
it's funny too when you described him with the one. It reminds me of like one of those like later generation Ninja Turtle figures that would come out. You know, they just took any reptile and gave him a weapon. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what like I think of with that like the Frogman. But the fact that it's based on a real thing is pretty funny. So, but speaking of that, so with it actually based on an actual legend, like we said, it's like not one that a lot of people know about per se. Like I think I might have heard it in passing, probably through Tim, because he's not shy about sharing his cryptid love. But were there any like specific facets of that legend? I mean, obviously the wand part, but that like you like, okay, I gotta make sure this is included in the film. This would be something that people would draw people to it.
Good question. Actually, we originally didn't have the wand at all. And when we designed the frog, I specifically like, we talked about should he be sinister? Should he look evil, scary? And I was like, no, I think you should just like kind of look like a giant frog. Like just like pretty neutral. Cause I like there was always this like Lovecraftian Innsmouth aspect to it. But originally I thought it would just be super funny if in my mind at least this is just a big giant dumb frog that has like stood the test of time in this town, has like projected their beliefs onto, and really there's like no intelligence there. um that cracked me up. But then we got almost to the end of shooting the movie, and it's like we got a Frogman movie and he doesn't have his fucking wand. That's just wrong. Like we got to get it in there. So we added the wand, and it just kind of snowballed from there. That it was like, well, then what if he really can read minds? Because we had that part earlier in the movie. It was like, well, what if that was actually a plant for something that we're gonna like pay off? So we just started going crazy with it. So really the wand was the only thing from the actual lore that we stuck to. I mean, the time period, we tried to stick to the time period with George's character, but yeah, everything else we just kind of made up because at least at the time that we made the movie, Loveland wasn't embracing Frogman. I even talked to people from Ohio and from Loveland that had never even heard of him. So I was like, well, I guess sky's the limit. Like there's no one's gonna be fact checking us too hard if we say the
Tim
whole
might.
town
No.
like giving him women or whatever, brides. And now there's a Frogman festival that actually has a really huge turnout. So that kind of scared me at first, but the like a lot of fans have already seen it, and even a lot of Ohio people have seen it and asked me if we actually shot in Ohio, and I'm like, okay, I think we got away with it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's awesome though. I love the fact that it like now it's being more braced than ever, so
So, Anthony, did you always envision this as a found footage film, or is there any talk about doing it as like a narrative film?
Pretty much. I think like almost immediately when we started to come up with a story around Frogman, it was we were going to write a character for our friend Nate that we work with a lot. And it was like, what if he is just super obsessed with this thing, saw it when he was a kid, and he's going out in the woods to make it like to get proof that it exists and basically making a documentary. And so it just that concept really lent itself to found footage. And honestly, I think just cryptids and found footage go together really well because a lot of like cryptid, culture is like these blurry photos or night vision photos or, this crazy like sweeping shots where you just like barely see a smudge move. And it's like, well, that's all found footage is, right? Like you just like barely get a peek at something. So it just felt right. And I guess, you know, the opening of Frogman is essentially like our version of the Patterson Gimlin footage, which is kind of like the ultimate found footage.
Yeah, no, I did totally get that like that great reference on that because I'm like, oh, this I see where he's going with this one. It's totally got the Patterson Gimlin. Because especially if you see a lot of those Bigfoot documentaries, they're trying to include that to that somehow. Like there was that one we watched where that was the whole thing. It was like they were on a quest to try and recreate the steps of that film. So I like that you
Isn't
added
the
that into a
stabilized, like
cryptid.
when they did the HD stabilized version, is really cool. They
No,
did
I never
they
saw
did
that actually.
yeah, they did like a stabilized version of it, like you can see it like super clear. It's really cool.
Ooh, I haven't
Yeah,
seen that
yeah.
yet.
Check that out. It's on YouTube. You can find it. And just look up stabilized Patterson Gimlin film. It's really neat. Um,
Nice.
but yeah,
So
I mean, I thought the found footage. Yeah, like you said, I think
yeah.
it lends itself perfectly to cryptid films, and I loved the opening of the movie because I thought it looked really authentic and it really lent itself well to that kind of set the stage for what you're getting into.
You even got the bickering family home video
Yeah, it
like
was
on
great.
there,
It
which
was
is like
great.
so realistic. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's gotten it all down.
That was so much fun to shoot. Like that like Justin and Emily that play the mom and dad, they're so good. Like that was one thing we didn't have anything written for. It was just like you two are just going at it and they improv with each other so well. I was like, God, we got to make a prequel now and it's just the family
Yeah.
vacation.
Well, I hope, yeah, I would love more Frogman stuff. But so like, how is it like in turn? Like, I'm always fascinated, especially with we're like Tim said earlier, we're big found footage fans. So like, but what is the challenge in like directing a found footage? Because it's one thing with a narrative where you can you kind of have it set exactly the way you want, but found footage you almost have to make like most almost build in these imperfections to make it look real. So like, what kind of like how is that like versus a narrative film trying to do that?
hmm as someone who's like been a cinematographer on a ton of stuff and a camera operator, it was so freeing to me. Like I didn't like from the beginning, I didn't feel any of that pressure of like, oh, it's got to look better. No, we should put a light up or something. Like we really shot this movie on high eight, and I just totally embraced the unique qualities that that camera has where you can like zoom in forever and it's just like always in focus and like you can just like go into a grain of sand and it's like crazy and shaky and weird, but you can do that and you can't do that on normal cinema cameras. It's just it has so much character to it, that I bring it on set with me every time I'm on set now and just shoot behind the scenes on that high eight
Oh, that's
camera.
awesome.
I just love having it in my hand. But as far as like directing, the big thing, as you noted, is like, found footage is all about authenticity. And like you're still making a movie, you're still telling a story, so it's gotta have drama to it, it's gotta be interesting. But like you can't even flirt with the line of theatricality that you can when you're doing a traditional narrative. Because if like, and I, like we get close. And there's stuff that we shot multiple times over because it felt too staged and too acted and theatrical to me. So we went back and shot it again. And yeah, some things three times over even to get it right, to get it feeling authentic. And ultimately, most of the time, it was just boiling it down. It was like, we are overcomplicating this. It's like too much exposition or too much, like, this character doesn't need to explain everything. Like, they can just go in the woods and find the frog. We don't have to know how they figured out where he is, like, whatever. So that was an interesting challenge that I kind of saw coming, but not to the extent of how difficult it was, because we wrote a script to like fall back on, and I was like, we always got this script that's pretty good, but there's tons of stuff in the script that didn't work when we tried to shoot it because it was just too back and forth, bouncy, stagey type dialogue. So that was an interesting challenge.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah,
say
Brian.
because I've seen so many found footage movies over the years because it's one of my favorite of the subgenres, and I've seen so many people where they'll do like what you said, they'll add this narrative, they'll cheat, they'll make it too stay, and it's obvious that they do that, and yours was just so it was done so perfectly. Like I felt like I was just. It was one of the. It was like it was basically the Frogman had everything what made me love about found footage in it, which I thought was great because it didn't have that feeling of narrative. It had the feeling of like the thing. And the fact that it was a quest. I always like these quest films do. Like I love like documentaries where like I telling Tim, we watched this one where this guy goes and like hunts for all the Nintendo games and stuff. Like so the fact that like when you add a found footage for a quest in there, that's like my sweet spot. So I just like I know that's not really a question, it's more of a compliment to you just on how good you delivered on this one because and I think like I already know a friend of ours who's like a big found footage guy is gonna flip at this thing. He's so excited to see it already. And so now I'm like I can't wait to get his reaction. He'll probably write a song for you about it too. So
Yeah.
he's a songwriter, so expect a Frogman song soon.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm over promising him, aren't I, Tim? Every
Yeah.
guest, I'm like, if he likes your movie, you're gonna get a song. But
No, we've talked about that. I mean,
yeah,
we talked about it recently because we have been watching a lot of found footage recently and talked about how not that a person might be a bad actor. It's just they might be an actor that's a little too theatrical for the found footage, and it draws you out of the movie. And I think that is one of the maybe more challenging things about found footage movies is because some of my favorite found footage movies they took people literally off the street that don't act, and just like Blair Witch, like they
yeah.
interviewed people like off the street, and they'll sometimes that comes off as the most authentic versus having actual trained actors in the movie. But speaking of that, like, can you talk a little bit about the cast because they were all wonderful?
Yeah, we actually tried a little bit of that, pulling someone off the street type thing. I had a couple friends that like are just such characters in real life, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a part for you. You literally just have to be you, and it's gonna be great. Like you're what I want, and then you get them in front of camera, and they just can't be themselves. So
That's funny.
yeah, I haven't cracked how to direct that quite yet, but I'm so envious of that stuff, like Uncut Gems and Good Time, like the way the Safdie brothers can just like pull any weirdo off the street that just has a great look and presence and just like make an incredible performance out of them. Like what a gift. That's crazy. But Nate, Chelsea, and Benny, our three main actors, we wrote those roles for them. And if there was anyone I was maybe worried about the authenticity bit, it might have been Chelsea because she is so big and so theatrical. And she's like more like she started in stage acting, but that really is how she is. Like her bubbly, crazy, like always at 100, like that's literally her. So I mean, we just leaned into that and we wrote a character that's like, well, you're an actor, so
Yeah.
you can be that way, right? And so the parts that really floor me when I watch it are the parts where she gets really quiet and like really serious. Like when she's like pleading with Dallas in the car to leave. I'm like, damn, she can act. Because I wasn't like I wrote a big character for you because I knew you could do that. But like you can do the small stuff too. Like most of that small stuff was just like her like choosing to go there without me even telling her to. So it was a lot of fun working with them. They weren't all necessarily like comfortable with the improv stuff at first. Like I really wanted to like fall back on the script as necessary, but not like stick to it. And we did mostly stick to the script at first because they all felt more comfortable with that. But then as we went shooting, because it's just so different, like they didn't always know where I was. Like I'm like the camera's flowing, like it is almost a little more stagey because you're not confined to a frame. Like you can kind of shoot 360. They all three of them got way more comfortable with the authentic, the improv, just like going for it, making stuff up. And then we got to a point where I would just put the camera in their hands and just be like, just wander around Main Street for a little bit. Like you just got to Loveland, you just got out of the car, just explore. There's not even any story beats that you have to hit here. And then we end up with Gold, like they go out for ice cream. And like
Yeah.
that girl at the ice cream stand, she really like she was an authentic. We don't know her. She's not an actor. She just really has a theory that everyone's either a frog or a rat.
That was funny, that
That
sequence,
was
actually. Yeah,
insane.
that's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Chelsea's the one I recognized actually, because of course she was in the two scare package ones, and then I just recently saw her, which I didn't even realize she was in it until I was like, she looks familiar, and then I caught was in VHS '85.
Yep.
So she had a little found footage like experience there. So, but like, yeah, I thought she nailed it really good, and even I had never seen the guy that played Dallas before, and he was really authentic. Like he just had like this like I don't know, you really felt like he is like his quest. Like you I think everyone kind of knows someone like him where
Yeah.
he's like, where like he feels like he's got to redeem himself always because of something he said or something he did. And I thought that was his character was really good that way because I thought he brought it the actor really brought that well, I thought.
Yeah, he's insane. I've known him and worked with him for over a decade now, and he's usually the leading man, or he's at least like in the thing. He's a character or something. And yeah, I mean, this has always been like our dream. Me and my co-writer and Nate is just to like make something, make a feature where he really gets to show off what he can do. Because we're all just well, I'm in Denver now, but I am from Minnesota, and we're just all chilling in Minnesota most of the time and feeling like, God, there's potential here, but like it's untapped. And then yeah, like Mike, that did that VHS segment, he's in Minnesota too. And there's actually a lot of the guy that plays Dallas's dad, he's in that VHS segment too. And so is the guy that plays Dallas's brother-in-law in the opening. He's on the water with Amy or with Chelsea. Yeah. So we're trying to make something happen in Minnesota.
Nice, nice. Well, it actually is funny in VHS '85 too. The end credit song was our friend Jeff, the one I was telling you about. That was like really looking forward to doing
Oh
this,
shit.
to seeing this movie. Yeah, he's the one that wrote that like VHS song to like the Weird Al song UHF. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So you may literally get a Frogman song sooner than you think. So.
Hope so. I need that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. I too love that. This is off the. I didn't put this on the thing, but it just made me think about it. Like with the thing, I love the fact that you guys are doing that little VHS release. I don't know, Tim. Did you see that?
No, I
That
didn't see that.
yeah, they're releasing it like that was its first. Like that was where you could get it first, right? I don't know. Did it ship yet, or did
Yeah,
those ship?
they're out there.
Oh, they're out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, they did like a cool retro VHS box and everything. It's
Oh, that's
awesome.
cool. I love those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Um.
we decided to self-distribute, and that was the first thing I was like really adamant about. And thankfully Rotting Press and everyone else involved was supportive of the idea. I was like, I think it would be really cool if we just released on VHS first, at least for a little bit. That was the only way you could see it for at least a couple weeks, like I would freak out about that. I would definitely buy that VHS. And like it's not, there's a lot of new movies getting put on VHS, but like I mean, we literally shot on high eight, so you're not losing any quality. Like it's really the way it should probably be watched.
Yeah, I know that makes sense because this gives me that like it kind of gives me that old school going into a video store picking up that kind of movie. Even though that was well before they ever did found footage back then, it was just regular horror movies you'd find like that. But just with seeing the box art was the way you got. Like Tim and I talk about this all the time, and I don't know if you've seen those great horror documentaries In Search of Darkness.
Oh
They're like
yeah.
these, yeah, like, and David, we've had him on a couple of times, number of times actually now, and he's always said how we've discussed with him how the box art was so key back in the day, because that's how you discover so many of these films. And there's movies still to this day where I remember the box art but never got to see it. And then it'll appear on Tubi or something. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. I got to watch this now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that's a really cool way you went into that by putting a VHS copy first.
Which
Was
props
awesome.
to the poster art for this one, looks awesome.
Yeah.
I love the cover art for this one.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I like the little comic book look thing behind. Of course, our listeners can't see that, but yeah, Anthony's got a really cool Frogman, like almost looks like one of those EC Comics poster behind, which just came back. I guess Tim was telling me the other day. So which is kind of cool.
Yeah, EC's back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Easton Hawk that did our official poster. He did this EC comic one too, this alternate poster. And if you're a found footage fan, find him on Instagram, Easton Hawk Illustrations. I found him because he does such incredible cryptid art. That's like all he does.
Oh,
Cryptid art.
uh-oh.
I'll have to check that out.
You
got
you just made Tim's day.
Flatwood Monster, the Fresno Nightcrawler. Like I really, if we do something else, when we do something else in this universe, I want to see Dallas go after the Fresno Nightcrawler.
Is that like Fresno, California? Because I'm only like a few hours from there. I might need to go look for this thing myself.
Oh,
No, I don't know about that, but
You got to go look that up, Brian.
I know. I'm going there. You know how many times I like drive to, because my brother lives in LA, so I'm always driving from the Bay Area to LA, and I see the exit for Fresno. I'm like, what's really in Fresno? Now I know. Now I got to go like search for this thing.
Baby.
I know.
It's actually a phantom pair of legs, walking around the woods, and it's so funny yet disturbing to see the video of this thing. But like that's what I want to see Dallas go after, the phantom pants.
Oh my God, so do I. Well, if you guys go down there and you film on location, I'm driving down to meet you guys there and check this out.
It looks like, and Brian, it's one of the most puzzling videos I've ever seen because it's clear. I mean, it's fairly clear what you're looking at, but you can't comprehend what you're looking at. It's not like one of those blurry, shaky things. Like you can see these things walking,
and it's just like legs going.
It's like looks like legs. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, the guy that did our artwork, he did a Fresno Nightcrawler that's like kind of made up of like worms or tentacles or something, and that's what really inspired me. I was like, oh man, if Dallas like goes out in the woods and he gets close to the legs, but then the legs just turn into tentacles and like one wraps around his arm, like I want to watch that, man.
You know what? Yeah. Start this Kickstarter right now. I'm going to donate right away immediately. We'll promote this thing. I want to know all about it. And I'm afraid of feet as it is, so this will even be a double like thing for me. So
oh shit.
This is good. I like this. But now that we've totally sidetracked from poor Frogman, getting back to him a bit here. So without giving away any spoilers of the film, because I think I would do it just an injustice for people to know anything too much about this. But at the end, there's some teases that the story, of course, of Dallas and the Frogman may not quite be over, though. So do you actually have any kind of idea for any other ones? I know you teased before. You said like maybe a prequel, but like, is there any more Frogman films possibly in the works?
We have Frogman 2 outlined. We haven't started writing it yet, but we definitely are like, it won't take that long. Like we're ready to like knock that baby out this year if necessary, if people want it. And then what I would really love to do is like a 4-part or 6-part like web series that bridges 1 and 2, which is where we could do like the Fresno Nightcrawler thing. Basically, well, okay, I won't ruin anything.
But you got me excited. Just knowing that there's a thought is good enough, because I know when I watched it first, I'm like, Tim, oh my God, wait till you see this. I said this movie is like for us. So like now that so I'm glad that there's more Frogman and it's not just like a one-off. Yeah, I like it.
Big plans.
So, Brian, I think we covered this.
Yeah, but basically our next question was any other cryptids, which you kind of told us about, which now I'm like immediately when this interview is done, I am looking up everything I can about the Fresno feet crawler, whatever. Yeah. No, Nightcrawler.
Okay, well, then let me take place of your question and ask you a question, because this is something that I am struggling with right now. I definitely want another cryptid in Frogman 2. But I'm kind of leaning towards creating our own cryptid versus going with one that already exists. And I'm like, I don't know, that's risky. I might piss off the cryptid,
Well,
I mean,
out
I
there.
mean, Tim
I
is
don't.
wearing a shirt of a made up cryptid, so you probably got his support.
Yeah,
So
I don't think so. I think I would be totally on board with like a completely made
yeah.
up cryptid. I think that would be cool. I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I think because like perfect example, like I haven't really I've only vaguely probably heard of Frogman. And there's probably a ton of people that are gonna think this was made up anyway. Like they're not gonna
Right.
think it's real. And there's tons of these things where people like wonder like and the opposite way, like remember when Blair Witch came out, people were convinced because of the way it was shown at Sundance, people thought it was a real documentary and it like got all that extra promotion. So who knows what you could start? You could start like this. You could make up a great cryptid, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, I know that cryptid for years.
People are going to start seeing it. Yeah.
I know you could like be you could not only like come up with an awesome new cryptid, but you could literally like come up with a whole bunch of believers right off the
Oh
bat,
my
which would be
God.
awesome.
Very true. I didn't even think about that because honestly, I think the Fresno Nightcrawler was like debunked upon arrival. Like, I don't even think there was like a buffer period where everyone was fooled. And yet the cryptid community is still just like, come on in, baby, you're one of us.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Exactly.
phantom
Doesn't
pants.
matter.
Let's go.
Because you know what it is, I think there's something. What I love about the cryptid is, so much is that like yes, if you look at it like in theory, most of them you're like, okay, it's much easier to debunk, but the fact of letting yourself get brought into the world of this and to see people who really believe it, to read all about it, to me that's exciting and it's fun. I don't even care if it's real or not, It's like to me, it's the story. I mean, you go to a movie, right, to get entertained. Why can't you get entertained with a story about a cryptozoological creature that's out there? And the more
Mhm.
people that actually believe it's real just makes the story that much more engaging.
Well, the guy that does the Monster Talk podcast is a complete 100% skeptic. I mean, he's that is they call it the skeptic podcast for monster lovers, but he is the biggest cryptid fan I've ever heard of. So it's totally possible to be 100% skeptic and still absolutely love this stuff. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, would there be that many podcasts, that many movies, that many stories out there if it wasn't something that people love like that? I mean, what's
Right.
that one that she does the Bigfoot stuff, like the Forest Flora, right? I think her name is. She has
Oh
that
yeah,
that there's
yeah.
this girl that does she has like all these like merchandise and everything. She's like a big Bigfoot person where she goes around and like but like she's honest about it. Like she'll say, "Oh, this was debunked, this was that." But she does. I don't know if she has a podcast or it's just an Instagram page, but she does do a lot of
She
cool
was cool.
stuff. So I mean, the demand for cryptid stuff is always out there. I mean, and obviously there's the ones that are household names: Bigfoot, Loch Ness, the chupacabra, for well, why is Tim's laughing at me because I said
I don't know. I'm
chupacabra?
just laughing because I'm like, all these cryptids are crack me up. I don't
I
know.
know,
I love them. I love them
but
all. I love
I
them
don't. Well,
all.
my new favorite is the one I never even heard of till today. So look
I
at
know.
that. Like I love this thing about the Fresno thing, because I like, I didn't know. Like I assumed California had the Bigfoot one. That was it, but
Yeah, there's
I
pants
guess
running around.
there's kind of like a Venn diagram of like creepy pasta stuff too,
oh
which is
yeah.
Hmm.
like all made up, but even that kind of like bleeds into cryptid territory a little bit.
I mean, Slender Man is perfect example of that. I mean,
Oh
that's pure
yeah.
creepy pasta. Yet that became almost like a real cryptid just from the power of the storytelling and stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. So
Something
Anthony, do you have anything else in the works that you could share with us other than what we've discussed already? Or
I've got a bunch of scripts ready to go. Very, very different stuff than this. Um, and yeah, just in the process of trying to find some money to make them. But if all else fails, we're just gonna do this again. We've
Nice.
got Frogman 2 ready to go.
oh, can't
I'm
wait.
cooking up another found footage thing that I think, if basically if it looks like by this summer, like money's not going to come through for one of these other features, we're going to do this other found footage thing that we could get done on our own. Yeah, that's kind of what's up next. And I kind of want to I've always wanted to play in comics. I love comics. That's why I had this Frogman comic cover made. Um, and something John and I have always wanted to do, my co-writer, is like the Indiana Jones of found footage, which like if we
Oh
keep this going in movies, like we'll do as best we can with Dallas on a very like low level, but like maybe in the comics we flesh that out a little bit more, where it's like, yeah, basically an Indiana Jones character, but instead of being obsessed with artifacts, he's just obsessed with, Bigfoot.
But that's
Yeah,
awesome. See,
I
because
love
there's
that.
so
Yeah.
because I think there's so many people you like that would instantly relate to that, like either just fans of cryptids or people that actually do go to these things, like I see it
Mhm.
all the time, being in, in the horror community, we see a lot of people going like, oh, I went to, so many people, like one of the biggest posted things is I went to the Stanley Hotel, like kind of all stuff like that. Or like me, I lived for the last until we just moved out here. I lived in 5 years, like 8 minutes from the Amityville Horror House, so like on Long Island. And Long Island has a ton of creepy ghost legends. Like it's like because I think they, a lot of it spawned from the Native American burial grounds that were covered over and stuff. And
Mhm.
there's like, I mean, I worked 5 minutes from this Mount Misery Road. I don't know if you heard of that one, but
No.
that's like, yeah, there's like about 7 different like stories on there about either like a spot if you go under an overpass, you flash your lights 3 times, you'll see 3 hanging people. So just
Ooh.
look when you get a chance, Google like Mount Misery Road, Sweet Hollow Road, Long Island, and you'll get a ton of like really creepy stories from that. And then Ronkonkoma is a big one, the ghost, the Lady of the Lake in Ronkonkoma, where it's like a Native American princess would drag someone down once a year, kind of stuff. So there's cool stuff like that. But I think even though that's not a true cryptid thing, I think any of those legends blend well with that. So anything that like I think and found footage is I think like you said is the perfect thing for that. But also I like the idea that you want to flesh it out in like another form of media because that just makes it more immersive to me. And I'm like I'm all for that. So
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Are you near San Francisco? I don't know
yeah,
where.
right now I'm in out of in Santa Clara, so about 40 minutes from San Francisco.
Are you going to the Unnamed Footage Fest?
I want to because we got Tim and I got press passes to it virtually when they did it that year during COVID. And
Mhm.
actually through that I discovered one of my favorite found footage films, which was The Haunting no, the Possession de Altair. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I
That
haven't
was
seen
shot on 16 millimeter and it
it.
gave that really authentic look too, which is another reason why I love this so much because I think you're right. That old school camera, that older film makes it look like, it makes it look way more authentic. But I do want to check. I do want to. It's funny. I saw another post about that unnamed film festival. We're constantly on the email list. So I was thinking of seeing if I could still get some tickets for some of it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be there. Frogman will be there. You should come hang out, man.
Oh, yeah, maybe I will try it. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that was called Possessio what?
Well, it's actually, I think the true title is 1974 La Possession de Altair. For years, I've been pushing this movie for everyone, and it's never been available for streaming. You could buy a Blu-ray,
Oh,
but
okay.
now it's on the Roku channel for free, so you can see it on.
Yes.
That's finally it hit there, and I was so excited. I was like telling everybody, I'm
Oh
like, Tim,
man.
it's finally
You
out.
need to watch that one, Anthony. You would
Dude,
love
this
it.
looks so
You
good.
would
I
you would
It's
love
watch
it.
this tonight.
Yeah, it is really good because I think and I think it helps that it's like it's subtitled. So it's in Spanish and so the subtitle like Tim and I were saying it's like you can kind of like you really just get the emotion because unless you're reading the lyric, or speak fluent Spanish, you're not really sure what they're saying. So it is
Mhm.
all emotion based and I think it's just really well done. And
That's
it
all.
builds. It is a slow burn, but it really like it builds to the great finale. So I think you'll
Oh,
like that one. I mean, let us know because I think I followed you. We followed you on Instagram, so should let it give us send us a note what you think of it after you see it.
I will for sure. Yeah.
But actually before we let you go though, where can everyone find Frogman now? I know there's the VHS, but I think but I believe it comes out on VOD next week.
Yep, VOD on March 8th.
Oh, perfect.
Apple, Amazon. We've got some screenings scattered around if they're near you. We're doing Kansas City at the Screenland Armor. Great theater. They host Panic Fest every year. We'll be there March 15th. We'll be in Anaheim at the Frida Cinema April 6th. Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 19th. So just like, well, the best thing you could do is find me on Instagram, cousins_Anthony or Frogman at Frogman Movie on Instagram, and I'll post everything on there. You know, we're gonna make some Blu-rays
Oh
with some like
yes, I need
lots of
that.
fun special features. So yeah, the VHS is just the beginning. There's gonna be you can see it in the theater, see it on VOD, and we're gonna cook up some fun stuff for the Blu-ray because I don't want it just to be the movie and the trailer. There'll be some.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a big physical media collector, so you can guarantee I will be purchasing that the second it's available. So
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've got so much. Actually, I started to tone down and then I bought a fucking 3D projector and now I'm back in because that's one
oh
thing
yeah.
you can't stream. So I'm buying all these 3D Blu-rays off
Oh,
eBay.
that's awesome.
Damn it.
Yeah, once you get back in, it's hard to get out of it. But if you got out and then you're back in, it's got you for good now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well, that's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. So thanks so much, Anthony, for coming on, man. We love
Yeah.
the movie. I can't wait. Like I'm really like Brian said, I can't wait for some of our friends to see this because we know they're gonna love it. And it's
Yeah.
like killing me that it's not out yet. That we
I
can't.
know. Well, someone asked me when I posted it. Another friend we have,
Yeah.
I think she's based in Australia. We're friends with her on Twitter, and we posted that we saw it, but that's it. And we just said, future episode, we'll talk about it, kind of thing. And someone immediately asked, "Oh, where can I find this?" Just by the name. We hardly said anything other than that it was Frogman. So you're already getting like a following of this thing, and people, I could tell, just cannot wait till it hits, till they can see it. So.
We made this thing and like 3 years in, like we're gonna screen it for the first time, and I'm so demystified by it at that point that I'm like, does this suck? Is this boring? Is anyone gonna care? Was this you just don't know what you've done when you're that close to it. You're like, I don't even know. There was a cool idea at the beginning of this. I know that, but I don't know where we are now. So like, but you just can never, like I said, like I make movies that I want to see and then I can never enjoy them.
Oh no.
Like, so it's so rewarding for like people to see it and love it and enjoy it and like basically get what I wanted out of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, Tim and I don't think there's a better example of the audience of your that will hit as well than Tim and I, and a lot of the groups that obviously that we know online and through social media, and just our immediate friends. I already know like that are gonna love this thing. So I think you'll be if you have any doubt, it will probably be washed away shortly as soon as you just follow some of the social media. As soon as this starts hitting everywhere where people can get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you'll have a big grin on your face watching all the reactions, especially if our friend Jeff writes a song. I'm gonna tell him tonight. I'm gonna say, by the way, I kind of signed you up for a Frogman song.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because we got to get Frogman 2. We
need Frogman 2.
Yeah.
We need this promoted. We need as much Frogman as possible. But yeah. Thank you, Anthony, so much for coming on. Sorry we kept you a little longer, but it was so much fun talking with you about all this stuff.
Oh, this was awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Stay in touch, please.
All right, Brian. So again, like I said, I hope you guys found that interview as enjoyable as we did. I thought Anthony was just a trip to talk to, and I loved everything about this movie, and I loved hearing his side of it. And like he said in the interview, he's so deep into it that sometimes he can't step back and see what we're seeing because he's too close to the material. But I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad I'm glad that we because we put a smile on his face that he found like he knew that it like hit the right audiences, you know, and that was always good. So I found a really good beer that I don't think I could have found any better than this one, and that's Frogman Lager.
That's perfect.
Yeah, from the Bold Mariner Brewing Company. It's actually I didn't put it there, but it's from Norfolk, Virginia. We have to have. We will send Ken down there.
Oh yeah. That's
We'll
right.
send him
That's in
over
his
there.
neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in his haunt. His haunts, a local haunt he can get to. It's 5.3%. It's a well-balanced amber lager with a strong combo of caramel and bready malt flavors. Bold Saaz hops. I don't know, it's SAAZ. I don't know how else to say that. Hops. Yeah. Gives it floral and earthy notes. At 24 IBUs, Frogman Lager is good to go anywhere, anytime.
And any beer named after a frog has to have a lot of hops. You know that.
Yes, of course. I knew you were going to go there. Yes. Oh, Tim, I knew you were going to say that one today.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
So many frog puns.
Yeah. Oh no, we could. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't like torture poor Anthony with a ton of frog.
We
puns,
could have.
We totally could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could have. But see that shows if there is any proof how much we loved that film and I love talking to Anthony, that was it. That we didn't even go to one frog pun.
I know.
That whole interview. That shows it. That's the ultimate test. So I think I have a good fan topic food, and you just kind of it's funny you kind of touched on it a little bit, but so I know with the exception of Bigfoot, Tim, which would be your number one, but if you could go with a documentary film crew to research a cryptid, what would it be? And I know your second one. I should have probably taken out the second one too.
What do you think?
Probably be Loch Ness.
Yes, it would totally be Loch Ness. Okay, that's okay. I can do without Bigfoot or Loch Ness. So this would be like Monster Quest or something. Like this is like an actual documentary. This isn't a horror movie. This is like a documentary.
Yeah, this is like they said, "Hey Tim, we listened to your podcast. We heard you like cryptids. I want you to come along with me. We're gonna go along on a cryptid hunt. We may, they may record it, for an actual documentary kind of thing. But they're inviting you, Tim, to come on this with them. So it's like a real, people that are really into it, just like you. They have all the equipment, all the research, and they're going to literally go to where this legend supposedly took place. So that's the premise. Okay.
I love Loch Ness Monster, but I don't think I would do well, searching for something on the water a lot. And, I don't know. I'm not like a big boat lover. I don't know if I'd be able to stand out on the lake for all day with a documentary crew. So I don't know. I'm thinking I would probably have to do something I'd have to still go super famous. I couldn't do. I don't want to do. Something so obscure like the Mongolian death worm or something. I don't want to do that. I want to do something.
Is that a real thing? Then?
Yeah, that's a desert. That's a desert cryptid, Mongolian death worm. So I'm thinking I would either want to do Mothman or Jersey Devil. The only reason I shy away from Mothman is because it's. To me, that, and I guess in a way, Jersey Devil kind of as well. They're both kind of past cryptids. You don't hear about current sightings of the Mothman. That was a thing that happened, and it doesn't happen anymore. But I'd still love to. I've always planned when we rode through West Virginia to go to our coaster trips. I've always wanted to stop by Point Pleasant and take a picture with the Mothman statue and all that, and visit the Mothman Museum. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go with. See, the problem is, I don't think you'd ever find anything remotely near. I feel like if I went on a Bigfoot hunt, there might be a chance I'd hear something or I'd see something unexplainable. I don't feel if I went on a Jersey Devil hunt, I would ever see anything. Or a Mothman.
Probably not.
Or a Mothman.
Well, you could see the actual New Jersey Devil hockey team if you can make sure that happins. But
so I don't know.
Of course, it's so funny when people say that. They're like, why they name the Devils? I'm like, really? You never heard of the Jersey Devil? I'm
gonna have to go Jersey Devil. I love Jersey. I love the whole.
And you could visit Cone too.
Yeah, so and I'd be up there in New Jersey. I'd be near you. I'd be near Cone. I like the Jersey Devil. I think that's that's one of my favorite cryptids outside of Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. So yeah, definitely.
So mine, this is gonna be funny. When I was creating this question, I had other ones in mind. I was, of course, I'd love the Loch Ness also, but again, it's it's ones that have been so scouted already, and it's if I went to Scotland, I'd probably end up just getting drunk on scotch anyway. So I'd be no help to them at all, and I'd just be an embarrassment and fall into the water. But now I think after talking to Anthony, I'm now really interested in this Fresno Nightcrawler thing he told us about, where it's just a pair of legs.
Yes.
That is, to me, that is the most frightening. I've seen sketches now that I've kind of looked it up. So it's not just actual human leg walking around. It's definitely some kind of there was one I saw, it was a sketch someone did. They look like all kind of like worms or spaghetti, wiry legs like that. And I've seen other ones where it's just these really long, stretched out legs. And it kind of does the, how Freddy looked in the first one, he ran and he's all wide, picture that with legs. And so it was kind of like that. So I think I'd want to go there. I mean, especially now that I'm living in California, and I literally pass the exit to Fresno anytime I drive down to the Southern California there. So
another one I thought about was the Skinwalker Ranch. All the weird things are supposed to happen on Skinwalker Ranch. So if you went and looked for skinwalkers, that'd be a cool. That's I don't know if it's a cryptid because those are supposed to be magical people, but
I wonder which is harder, to get on a crew that goes after skinwalkers or Ranch or Skywalker Ranch to go see all the Star Wars
probably
stuff.
Be equally as impossible. So
I would think, yeah, from what I understand, it's
I'll tell you though, aside from all the cryptid stuff, what I really genuinely do want to do is a ghost hunt, like a legit paranormal investigation ghost hunt. That's what I would.
I think we need to do. We need to set that up to do that together for once. I think that would be so much fun, especially for the fun for the podcast, just to talk about it. And I kind of did that one. Remember for your brother's wedding where we did the haunted pub tour in Wilmington, which was really cool on its own. It was just like they had some cool ghost stories in there. Of course, the best thing out of that was we discovered Clapback. But
they do have actual. Like Bellamy Mansion, which is one of our supposed haunted mansions here in Wilmington, from time to time does professional ghost hunts, and I think it's like $150. But I would pay that just to try it one time.
Yeah,
and they do you have actual paranormal investigators. You have all the equipment. It's very obviously it's very limited to the number of tickets they sell because they want just small groups. I think that would be super fun.
Well, I think if you're in the woods with 500 people, it kind of loses the fear factor a little bit.
So,
and if you base off anything you hear with the with mediums and spirit, if you have too many people there, they're not going to really
So if we have
see anything.
Ghost hunters that listen to the podcast and want to take us on an actual genuine ghost hunt, let us know. That would be awesome.
Yes.
That would be cool.
Yes, and we will pay for the fee.
Yes,
it's not we don't want a free one.
No.
We don't need a free one. We just want the information, the info on it to get over there. And it's funny. Speaking of ghosts, I just saw I think I told you the other day. The Winchester Mystery House just is gonna for a couple of weeks in April are gonna redo their flashlight tours, where they basically go through the whole mansion at night. I bet you they stopped it because of COVID because they're trying to space people out during things, and last thing you want to do is not be able to see well and bump into people when you're trying to. But so it's from what what they used to do is they used to literally have all the lights off the mansion. You have a guide and you walk through on a flashlight. I remember with the flashlight they did it. What I remember when I lived here the first time, I thought it was only on Friday the 13th and Halloween sometimes because that was before they did the haunt. When I first lived here, haunts were not a thing like they are now. And they didn't have that haunt that they have there, which is, again, a fantastic event, like I talked about the last, back in that episode. But I wanted to, so I may want to try and get tickets to this because I've always wanted to do it and I never got a chance. So I think this would be a fun thing. I'll probably fall 7 times. But then again, I almost tripped a couple times when the lights were on the last time. So I probably should wear armor, body armor or something.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that was our episode for Frogman. Hope you guys will check it out. I think you're going to love it. And we will be back here next week. We got more interviews lined up. Going to be a fun time. So stay out of the woods. Don't croak. I don't know. That was bad.
God.
That was very bad. Sorry. Later, guys.
See ya.